Hi guys, it's Mark Siegfried, Mr. Sci-Fi, also Mark Siegfried, Space Command. Hope you're having a happy holiday season. Elaine and I are running around getting ready for Christmas, doing all the stuff we do. Plus, another thing that I've been doing, that some of you know, is that Christmas Day will be Rod Serling's 100th birthday if he had lived. Sadly, he died at 50. But Anne Serling and Jody Serling, Rod's two daughters, and I have been doing a ton of interviews. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast Christmas night for 2 hours. We're going to be doing CBS Sunday morning, tons of stuff. But recently, Ann and I did Fox News. Yikes, Fox News! And and they just sent me the link, and so I thought it would be really fun to share that with you because again, it's really wonderful how so many people. I don't know if I've ever met anyone who didn't like The Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is so universally loved, and Rod Serling is so universally loved. It really cuts across generations, race, creed, everything, even political slant. I mean, I suppose there's some people who hate Rod for what he had to say, but I'm not one of them, God knows. So, and for those of you who don't know, I wrote The Twilight Zone Companion when I was in my early 20s. The new edition just came out. I expanded it significantly. And if you want to hear me talk for 30 hours, buy the Twilight Zone Blu-ray, which I produced because I did 52 commentaries with the likes of Richard Donner and Richard Matheson and so forth. So, but now I will share with you the piece that Fox News just did with me and Rod's daughter, Anne.
My dad was so different than the public would imagine. You know, they see this dark image walking across the soundstage, but my father was hilarious. He loved the Flintstones. He had a great singing voice. He would belt out Sinatra and Tony Bennett. He did the best gorilla imitation you could imagine, as is evidenced in almost every single home movie. He told an audience once that you think you know me, but actually, I don't even like to go into the attic unless the light is on. My father was in World War II, and he enlisted in the war the day after he graduated from high school. He really wanted to go and fight the Nazis, but of course, he was sent to the Philippines. And he was in Laos, I think I'm saying that correctly, where some of the fiercest fighting was. And for instance, he saw a friend of his decapitated when a food crate fell from the sky, and just horrific things. And I wasn't aware of exactly how much. I know my dad had nightmares because I would hear him sometimes, and in the morning I would ask him what happened, and he said he dreamt that the enemy was coming at him. When I was writing my book, I read the letters that he wrote to and from his parents before he was sent over when he was in training camp, and they broke my heart because he was asking for things like candy and gum and a belt buckle or something, and underwear because he didn't like the GI underwear. And it punctuated how young these guys are that we send off into this horror.
One way he did cope with the PTSD, and again, this is to dispel the rumor that Rod was this dark, depressed, broken man at any point of his life. He wasn't. He was full of life, full of fun, just present, loving, loved humanity, loved his family. I mean, he had very close friends. He was really a great guy, but as a writer, he was able to get it off his chest through the writing. And there's a terrific episode of Twilight Zone called The Purple Testament, which is about a soldier in World War II fighting in the Japanese War, fighting in the Philippines, who can see the faces of those who are about to die in combat. And the feeling of soul weariness of those soldiers, it feels so real and so authentic. And you can absolutely tell that the man who wrote that episode lived that experience. And it's one of the best things ever written about war.
So many memories I have of my father that make me smile. One is how one time he came down wearing my lampshade, and it was just a funny thing. Another is when he would get angry, he'd then walk out of the room, and about 5 minutes later walk back in and say, "Have you seen my twin brother anywhere?" The other great memory I have is taking trips with my dad to New York City, and every time we get into an elevator, he would tell me this is when I was a little older, he would tell me an off-colored limerick, and I would start to laugh the minute we got on the elevator, and then he would start to laugh, and there we were like two fools giggling away. My dad was just, he was so funny and he was so kind and fun to be with. I never felt the sense, that you'd go through when you're a teenager that you don't want to be around your parents. I loved being with him, as did my friends.
In terms of Rod's success in Hollywood, he had a mixed response. I think certainly he was proud of Twilight Zone. He felt that Twilight Zone accomplished what he had set out to do, which was to basically take everything he cared about, everything he felt about life and humanity and love and death, all the big, true issues, and put it into his show. It was his A game, and he won Emmys for it, and deservedly so. But I think Hollywood is an extremely, and I say this also as a writer who has worked for decades in Hollywood as a writer producer. I have my own studio now, so I'm still actively shooting. Hollywood can be incredibly corrosive. It can break your heart, it can break your spirit. Rod was not a broken man at all, but certainly after Twilight Zone, when he did Night Gallery and other later projects, he certainly felt how needlessly cruel Hollywood could be, how it didn't recognize quality the way that we all do. I think toward the end of his life, he didn't think Twilight Zone would stand the test of time. He said as much in interviews. When I was writing the Twilight Zone companion, I interviewed over 100 people who worked on the show. No one had a bad word about Rod. Nobody. And certainly in a town that's known for its cattiness and its gossipy qualities and its catfights, everyone loved Rod.